Inshallah, that one brother, he puts in work, man. I forgot what it looks like. Yeah, I'm ready, Sim.
This episode is brought to you by Mecca Books, your source for traditional Islamic knowledge. It's where seekers of knowledge go to buy their books. Go directly to Mecca Books because they have a massive catalog that covers just about every topic from fiqh, aqidah, hadith, tasawwuf, and everything else in between. You can go to meccabooks.com/TMM and use the code TMM for a 10% discount.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks podcast. My name is Sim. Along with me are my friends, the host of Muzzy Buzz, Mort.
Oh, it's struck.
And we got Shaq. Clearly, Sheikh Amr is out. So these guys are misbehaving, and let's just say those who are watching on YouTube, it's going to be a little smoky in here. This is what happens when Sheikh doesn't show up. These guys.
We're just enjoying a nice cigar. Nothing wrong with that. It's a nice cigar. Sorry, my camera's frozen.
Yeah.
I think they couldn't handle my.
Don't give the wrong impressions, dude.
Yeah, but there you go. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So we have some things to talk about, but before we do that, we want to make sure that you guys can enter the chat, because we want to make the chat a little bit more interactive on Wednesday nights, because Wednesday nights are a little bit more loosey-goosey, and we just kind of unwind and talk about some of the things that are happening. I'm going to go ahead and paste that over here, and Mort can talk about whatever he wants.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, for those of you that already know, it's a StreamYard link. So all you got to do is you got to just essentially click the link, and then we want to verify you guys. So I mean, if you can, jump your if you put your camera on, you're more than likely just in the backstage, so we can see who you are, so we don't get some weird guy just coming to show his genitals on the show, right? But technically, we're not going to put you on the show anyways. We're just going to hear your voice, so you don't have, so don't worry about it.
If you want to be on the
show, we can do that. But generally, we're going to be just doing the audio. But we're going to be talking about a bunch of things in the show. So if you want to jump on, or maybe you had a comment about a previous episode or something like that, and you wanted to talk about, something. Or
a future episode.
Yeah, or a future episode with Mahdi Tijani coming up, which is enraging some people for some reason. This is worse than Noman Ali Khan interview. This is worse than, people were getting mad that we interviewed, Noman after the whole scandal, what they believe is scandal. And we just said it, return of the knack, right?
Yeah.
And they were all just fuming. How dare your platform him? How dare you? What would have you? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but this is getting more outrage than that, unfortunately. And it's really, we were struggling to find out why. So if anyone wants to jump online and talk about that, or something we said in the past, or you just want to ask a question and vibe with our new co-host Shaq and get some wisdom from Sim, yeah. No, from Sim, then join in.
ODB song.
Yeah, ODB. Yeah.
Shimmy, shimmy, yo. Shimmy, shimmy, hey. Yeah, so the Tijani episode's causing a little bit of an uproar with people. It hasn't even been out.
I mean, can you explain to us why?
Well, some people feel that he...
what does he do? I mean, I heard it for the first time last week.
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking, because a lot of people don't know who he is. But Mahdi Tijani is a person who originally started in the red pill sphere, but now he's distanced himself from that whole arena, and he became kind of like an online coach, someone who gives advice on how to have a successful marriage, or have a polygamous marriage, which he had. At one point he had 3 wives, now he's got one wife. So later on, he's moved on to start a Telegram
Going
group.
backwards.
Well, he's going backwards. I think he just realized the ridiculousness of having that many wives, and who knows?
Do you think that's possible, Shaq? Like someone who has been polygamous and like they could just go back to having like a single wife?
I don't know. I think it'd be hard.
It would
I
be.
think so. Yeah. I think so.
Like, is it because of the routine? Like, you just can't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, wait. I'm kind of wondering like what the first wife would say. Like, oh yeah, I finally did it. I broke him. Like, I got it back to one. You know what I mean? Like something like that. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Do you think like a first wife would try to sabotage?
No, I don't think that would happen.
You don't think so?
No, that wouldn't happen.
Well, even the really jealous
I
type.
don't know. I don't know what would happen if they broke up. I know they might be happy. Some of them will, not all of them. But yeah, I would love to ask him how he feels going from 3 to 1.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would feel.
Why wouldn't you know? What do you want to say, Shaq?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh,
I wouldn't know how to go forward and backwards. Is what I'm saying. I would just only know how to.
how would you know any different? You
know.
Yeah.
I'm a forward thinker. That's all.
Okay. Oh, forward thinker of 2. That's nice. No, but I mean, so guys, if you guys want to jump on, that is the link. We can get a little bit, as Sim mentioned, loose here because Sheikh Amir is not here, so you can ask your crazy questions. You can jump on and talk crap about Sheikh Amir. He's not here.
So back to Mehdi. He started a Telegram group.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, he initially started a Telegram group called No Strings Nikah, where he was, getting brothers and sisters, essentially married, or introducing them to each other. He's not getting them married, but he's introducing them to each other and
Like-minded people, basically.
Yeah, but people who want to get married, but without all the responsibilities of the traditional marriage. Where you have to cohabit or share expenses and all the different things where you essentially...
I mean, no strings attached pretty much explains it all.
I mean, he's saying the ideal candidates for these are... This isn't like... He's not promoting this for everyone to do. This is something that is done to prevent zina, right?
Yeah.
So it's a specific subset of people, whether it be like men looking for second wives or third, or maybe even women that are divorced and have children focused on something and they don't want to necessarily have a traditional marriage, or maybe a career woman that has, doesn't want to have aspirations to be a full-time, homemaker. Yeah. So
a lot of these,
it's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed, but and we'll get into that because I don't want us to say it's allowed. I want Sheikh Amr to determine that because the Sheikh is the Sheikh, and
unfortunately
we're a bunch of morons and we can't really. I mean, I would like for him to vet through some of the way the program is set up and how the app. So he started on Telegram. He was getting people connected, right? Yeah. And he later on moved into building an app for it in the Play Store and iTunes. So he built an app.
Is it doing well?
I don't know, but I assume
Is he a patron of his own app?
I would. No, I don't know.
And to be clear, these are not short-term nikahs.
No, that's not.
No, it's not
muta. It's not muta. Yeah. It's a legit marriage with the intention to stay married, and it's just basically linking. Because you know what it is. We have a friend of ours, who has a matrimonial website, and he was telling me that women that traditionally in the past who said they will never be a second wife or third wife or they don't need a man, all that stuff, they were approaching him now, like 5 years later, that they want to get married, but they don't want to be a first wife. They want to be a second wife. And these are career women that have their own money. They just want a part-time husband. And apparently the woman who reached out to him was like, it's not just me. I have like 5 or 6 other friends that were looking to do the same thing. So apparently there's this trend of women that realize, crap, we need to get married. We need to get the D. And we kind of want to be halal in it, right? Yeah. So I think it's a growing number of
companionship.
Well, so what puzzles me is, okay, so people want... what this was kind of known in the past was called misyar marriage. People who are, usually travelers. They would have like Ibn Battuta, right? Ibn Battuta, he was known to have a wife at every port.
Nice.
So he would marry them, and when he's after a couple of years, I don't know how long he would stay there. He would, he would divorce him, and then he would leave, and he would go off on to another journey, and he would keep some wives as wives, and he would return back to those ports, to enjoy the benefits of marriage.
I'll be back in about 8 months. I see you.
Well, so
Like 2 days.
that's Ibn Battuta. You could read his life history, and no one ever criticized him for that, or declared him sinful in any respect. So, I would imagine like 2 consenting adults. No one's being coerced. If they're wanting to do this, why is everyone upset? Like, hey, I get it that it's not maybe Mort's cup of tea or whoever else. They don't agree with that kind of a relationship. I understand that. Like, that totally makes sense to me. But if 2 people who aren't being forced, they want to marry, and they want to form their own rules within the marriage of how they want to operate, that they agree to these set of rules. Why is it? Who is it? I mean, they're within the framework of the Sharia, right? So why is everyone like?
You know what I think it is? I'll tell you what I think it is. I don't think it's everyone is upset. I think there's women that are upset, and I think the reason why it is because there's competition now.
Well, I know.
No,
I really think it is.
No, hold on. I'll tell you what I mean. Like, listen, they know a lot of times that they can control the marriage by the nookie. Right? A lot of times, right? Like, meaning, hey, this is mine.
They should be afraid of that regardless. Mm-hmm. It's not, I mean, zina or not, if you hold it back and then, that's more likely to happen. That's a simple, whether they have this app or not, they're going to do, whoever's going to do the deed is going to do the deed, especially if they're...
Yeah, but my point is that, like, now he has a halal, clean way in his mind to do it, and now they're realizing that, wait a minute, there's women who are not going to demand much and still be able to, they'll enjoy them.
They're more worried about their husbands secretly going out and getting a no strings attached nikah, because obviously the woman is completely in cahoots with this, right? So she's not going to tell anybody. So this could easily happen behind their back.
Well, I think it's still traditional marriage.
Ashley.
No, I think it's I think to be fair, the name is no strings nikah, but it's still like a legit marriage. I mean, there's an imam, there's a wali, there's
of course, but
all that.
Nobody else,
Yeah, no, yeah, I know, of course, but I'm saying
divorced women don't need a wali.
Well, that's the Hanafi opinion. That's a very weird opinion. No, but I mean, majority of them is that no, a woman, a wali has to be. The Prophet said 3 times she has to have a wali. You cannot, even to the point where even a non-Muslim has to have a kafir wali for her.
Well, we'll make Mahdi the wali then.
Huh?
We'll make Mahdi the wali.
I mean, no, but the thing is, though, here's the thing, all right? I'm not saying, I get what you're saying, that they're worried about that. But what I'm saying is, think about this. One of the biggest driving factors of women keeping men around is that, hey, look, we get to keep a man. He's got to provide for me. He's got to do all these things for me. And I control. And plus, the benefit of being married in a system like this now, where I have total control over everything, right? Now, imagine another deal comes along where a man's like, hey, I can get both. I don't have to really provide, maybe not financially. I don't have to spend as much time. I don't have to do any late night pillow talks. I don't have to do, I don't have to hear your stuff.
I think that's non-negotiable, bro. You still got to give the pillow talk.
No, hold on.
Don't you think you lose an element of husband and wife, relationship, number one? Number two, it's not like that's going to be the only thing that's going to survive, because people still want families.
No. So hang on one second.
Right?
So Mehdi talks about this. He says most of these people who are interested in these type of relationships have already been married 2-3 times, sometimes 4 times.
Right.
Yeah, they've done the whole routine, of adopting, integrating a family. They don't have that emotional space. They don't have that headspace.
Or women who are old who just never got married.
And or they might be busy with the career. They don't want to do all that stuff. So they're like, listen, we want it halal. And so a woman like that who's accomplished, and most likely a woman like that is probably in shape because she's doing whatever she's doing. And I'm saying
you're really making this a little.
Yeah, I mean, usually those corporate career women, they're in the gym, they're doing whatever they're doing.
It's not true.
Yeah, I thought it was, but. No, but what I'm saying is that, like, there's legit competition that another woman could potentially entice a man, and it's halal for him to do so. He has an avenue now, because traditionally what it was is most women, let's be honest here, most women did not want to be second wives, right? It was something like, oh, whatever. But now and if it was the ones that were kind of casted out by society, maybe belonged to a certain sect, right? Maybe in Germantown, Pennsylvania.
I think.
But now these are regular women that are actually saying, wait a minute, maybe it's a legitimate option, and that's a threat to somebody.
Well, maybe they don't even have to be a second wife. It could be just a first wife, a monogamous relationship where they just don't want that commitment.
Right.
That level.
But I'm going to be honest, though. I think most people doing the first marriage, for the same reason you mentioned, right? They're going to want family, kids.
Yeah.
The traditional aspect. So I think maybe there might be some for the first marriage, but I think that majority of them are going to be for the second.
Not first marriage. He's saying a monogamous marriage. Like some men could be like divorced 2-3 times, and a woman's divorced 2-3 times, and they're like, you know what? We're just going to have a relationship with a man that's like, just 2-3 days a week.
So he's been through the experience before. He's divorced. Now he just wants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It could be people who have kids, man. That's like a perfect situation for a lot of people who have children and are divorced. I can see that happening.
So, and it's consenting adults, and as long as it's within the framework of the Sharia, why is everyone like getting upset? Now, I don't know if it's actually a competition thing with the women. I think there's some women might be insecure with their husband getting ideas and exploring this avenue. I think there might be some of that. But as long as
I don't feel like this is going to be like a second wife thing. There is a website in Canada, right? Second wife that a second wife website.
Is there?
There's a legit one. So this is not really doing anything. That one is more dangerous. I mean, I would think that one is more.
Why?
Because that's actually women on there who want to be second wives. You see, on this one, not these women. None of these. There's no guarantee that the women on here are okay to be a second or third wife. They just might want a monogamous, no strings attached. Right?
I got you.
No, but they make that clear though. Like in their profile information, they say like, hey, I want to be a monogamous.
Yeah,
no
I know, but I'm saying, but there's an actual website that's just for
right.
So what do you think? It is explicitly for women that are cool with being in a polygamous marriage.
And I think some women want that. Some women want a guy who's responsible, who has those characteristics in, being able to handle that kind of responsibility. You know what women want? Women want what they can't have.
Yeah,
a lot of women want what what the other girl has.
That's what women say.
I figured out how to get this to move. How to get them on board. You know how it is? Just throw in a feminist element to it. Be like, this is actually feminism. Like, just kind of make them convince them that this is like in some way linked to the feminist movement, and then they'll all jump on board. Because you know how I'll tell you that, for example, some of these women, right, when you talk about hijab, right, they say, I wear hijab because I'm a feminist and it empowers me, right? So they kind of jump on that trope, right? So I'm in a polygamous marriage because it empowers me as a woman. I'm a feminist. If you can convince them, it's game over.
Yeah,
it's not gonna work.
Sure. But
there's also the element. There is another set of people who are mistaking it for a muta marriage. I think there's some confusion around that.
Yeah.
Because, there another name just popped in my head. Even Khalid bin Walid had many wives.
In war
when he was traveling. So,
but he also had ghanaim, which were like slave of war too.
No, we're talking about wives.
He had a lot of kids. He had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
What was it? 20 sons of his died in battle or something? Isn't it?
He was busy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a warrior.
But I mean, look, man. I think Sam made a point though. Like because of the name, no strings attached, and what that means for the outside world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative connotation around what that actually means, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why one of the reasons why we talk about bringing him on is because I think it's only fair to hear his side and say, hey, are you actually promoting muta or what are you promoting here, right?
No strings attached traditionally in the West means F-buddy.
No marriage. Yeah, I mean, like just basically two pleasure buddies, like just yeah.
But this is clearly a nikah of no strings attached. So it's a very different.
Yeah, there's additional layers of responsibility that get attached to it. So, I mean, you're kind of.
I don't think it necessarily means polygamous at all.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
but it can be.
Yeah, it can, but I don't think it is. I don't think that's the aim here.
Yeah.
By the way, if anybody has something to say on this topic, then remember, click that StreamYard link, and you guys can jump in and say your piece.
We got lots of listeners chiming in here.
I prefer someone who has an opposing opinion, because I want to understand that perception. Like, why? What do you think? Well, maybe we're not seeing something. Maybe there's something inherently wrong here that we're not seeing.
Well, someone told me recently that he's made some comments like, if my wife is having a baby, I don't want to be in the room. She should be able to
pump it out by
herself. I shouldn't be required to be in the room holding her hand and stuff, and that upsets some women. I know. Like, I just recently had a baby, as you guys know, baby Noah.
Baby Noah, free baby Noah.
Free baby Noah. But I was there right every step of the way with my wife, and even my previous marriage. Which each one I was right there like a soldier.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But I was queasy though. I don't like that sight. I was right there up by the bed. I didn't want to see what's coming out.
Yeah, I mean that's a little strange to me, bro. Like if you have to watch the whole thing, like you got to think like, man, I got to go back to that too. Like,
I didn't watch that.
I mean, speaking of what you just mentioned, Mehdi Tijani actually has he has a post about this, and it's funny because he has a picture of himself with his baby on his chest. And it's like skin to skin, right? It's like, oh, you guys this is not some kind of, skin to skin, like bonding thing. He's like, actually, I was sleeping and my wife just gave birth in the other room. I didn't want to be bothered. I told her to go have birth and then let me know when it's done. And so they brought the baby to me and put it on my chest. So he was sleeping.
I think he's trolling it.
I don't know if he's trolling, but that was what he put out there, right? But I'm saying, traditionally speaking, that's kind of what happened, right? Yeah. Like the man would be somewhere else doing his thing, and then all of a sudden, it's like the Lion King scene. Here's your baby, boom, cut the umbilical cord or something, whatever, right? And it was like it wasn't a place for a man to be. They had an army of midwives,
and technically up until phones were around. How'd the man even know? He went out to work. It was over. He's gone for 10 hours. Most of the time he comes back, they're in labor, they're already having a baby.
And plus that's why they had like an army of midwives, right? Like
I don't understand where this tradition came for. I mean, I know it's definitely not in Islam. It would not be an Islamic tradition at all for a man to sit there and watch the birth canal. It's not for him to do. That's not his job.
Usually, and I know in the past, it's
so beautiful. It's not really that beautiful.
In the past, a lot of guys 20, 30 years ago, I'm 50 years ago, maybe in the 40, 50 years ago, guys would be sitting in the cigar room having a bunch of cigarettes, and in the hospital they would have a cigar room, a cigarette room, and they would just be waiting for the baby to come out. So, and I know, having been through that experience, I know that whole process can be kind of, I just felt lightheaded, it's just a lot of screaming and, pushing and, all that stuff. There's a lot of blood.
Traumatic.
A lot of blood. I felt lightheaded, so I know that can be a little difficult, but come on, nothing compares to what she's actually going through. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go through it because she's going through 100 times worse from what I'm going through, so I'm just gonna man up and do it.
I want to say something. I don't think it's like unmanly to do that or anything like that. I want to make that clear. If you want to support your wife in doing that, by all means. I mean, you guys have a relationship that works out, but I think it should also be okay for a man to be like, hey, look, you go handle that.
But don't you? I would kind of look down on a guy who can't do that.
Why?
Because you just seem weak to me. Like a man should be able to slaughter an animal and just be able to deal with gruesomeness.
This is entirely different. Listen, you want to go back to that woman and see her as sexy. When you see that thing, it's not sexy.
No, forget that. No, I'm not talking about.
Look, man, something just lives in the women world.
Yeah, something just sit there waiting for a football catch, bro.
But up until this 80s, when as I call it, the bitch man era started, we didn't have this. My dad was not in the room. I know that for a fact. Parents, that same thing in the 70s. They'd be like, hey, and even the doctors and nurses would be like, go stay outside. When it's done, we'll call you out. We'll call you in. And then you better be in here. People started giving it in. I mean, there's midwives there, there's nurses there, 20 people.
Look, if she wants you there, would you be there?
I mean, I'm saying, yeah, I would, but there's no point. I mean, it's not a bad thing not to be there either. If you have the,
I would I would think you're a little weak. I think if you can't handle that,
it's not about handling it. It's just, it
ain't my scene.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
place.
It's the same reason why I don't want to go to, like, I don't know, your baby shower. It ain't my scene, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: someone just posted. It's cool. Like, I forgot about this. It says Khabib fought the day his kid was born, and when a reporter asked him if he was sad he couldn't be there, he was confused. He said, "Why? What can I do for her? Why do I need to be there?"
Yeah. It's very true.
So,
I mean, look,
so Khabib's wife didn't need him to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
But there's other women who want you to be there.
Sure.
But when your wife is asking you nicely, politely, hey man, I need you there for security. I need you next to my bed. I think as men we should be there. Yeah. I don't think that's so crazy and outrageous.
I don't think it's crazy.
I take my piece and stand next to it right there in security.
No, but the thing is like this, man. It's like, look, if you have to have it, by all means. But I don't know. Maybe I'm different. I know. Like, I don't know what birth feels like. I don't know what that ever could feel like. But I know that when I'm in pain, I don't want anyone around me. Like, I just want to be like, yo, let me get it over with. Let's just,
everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different, right? So maybe if your wife is like that, that's cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think we can't deny the fact that traditionally speaking, right, men weren't involved in that process, right? They were not around for that, right? Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Maybe culturally that was the norm. If your wife needs support, by all means, give it to her, right? You're her partner. No problem with that. But I don't think it should be like something a guy like looking for, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go there and just watch this thing be ripped apart and baby come out. It's just not something normal, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you don't. I mean, if you're doing it because you're doing it for her, you're sacrificing for her. I think any man that wants to sit there and watch that is just a bit odd.
Yeah. It is a normal studio as Moss.
Oh, it is a normal studio. What's wrong?
No, he was wondering why we're not doing split screen.
Oh, we are.
You know why I don't like to do split screen is because a lot of people think we're on a Zoom call or something. And I'm like, we invested all this money in this freaking studio, and some people are on other podcasts are saying, "Oh yeah, it's just sad that Mamluks do Zoom calls like with each other. Aren't they nearby? Like what are you talking about, dude? Like we're all right here."
I think because the backgrounds are so different.
Yeah.
Like behind you and behind that person.
Yeah.
And behind us, like it's just
You
different.
should have like one camera that captures all of us.
We're working on that, but you guys gotta donate so we can do it.
Yeah, guys.
Oh, the Sheikh is actually in the process of making a mini hijrah. So he's in preparation of that.
Yeah, he's in a big move. So he's gonna be on the show for Mehdi on Sunday. So that's we're excited for that. He's gonna prepare, inshallah. Sometimes he doesn't prepare, so
yeah. No, he's gonna be ready to go for Sunday, inshallah. That'd be a
inshallah.
good thing.
He'll vet the app, and if it passes, he'll get the halal approval from Sheikh Amr.
He'll get the barakah.
Or he might be coming here,
Or he'll get the
Or he might be Michigan action.
or he'll get the haram.
He might be coming here with 2 wives.
Oh no, don't. He gets really upset. He doesn't want.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that.
Apparently, he gets a
kind of
beating
lifestyle.
if he discusses that. So
Really? I thought he wanted 2 wives.
You're gonna get in trouble.
you're gonna get him in trouble, bro. No, bro.
I don't know. That's what we talked about last time, no?
I don't know what conversation you had. Sheikh Amr, that's on him, bro. Mm-hmm.
I thought we all agreed on this.
We agreed
You were for it. You were for it.
We agreed he should have one, but he didn't say he wanted one. Yeah, but I mean,
I think he went straight to 3.
Jack, do you think most men can handle 2 wives?
No.
what's the hardest part?
Keeping, it all together, man.
But what does that mean? What does that mean altogether? Like, I mean, let's talk about
equity.
It. A lot of men, you hear the ayah in the Quran, you got to be just, you got to do this, right? We know that, but what does that mean practically? Like, for example, look, man, I can't imagine like not inclining to one over the other. I mean, I can say that I won't show that, but it's clearly like sometimes there's certain things that you do because you can't hide that, right? So like that struggle of saying. And naturally, there's like this jealousy, right? They're gonna pick up on that. Like, how do you make it like work and calm them down? Is it just a matter of like telling them no, it's not that way, or I just can't imagine you get off the hook that way.
No, I mean, how do you explain this? It's like having, how a lot of people have this mother-in-law and wife battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, women are women, right? It's at the end of the day, there's certain characteristics about women that are kind of, pretty much the same across the board. Like, women are gonna be jealous of their women no matter what. If you have 2 women or 3 women in your life, and a lot of times I see this. If you get married, the mother all of a sudden becomes jealous of the daughter.
Yeah.
Becomes an issue. Sometimes it's dumb stuff. And then they're fighting over this control over this one man, even though the relationship is son to one and husband to another, right? So it really doesn't make any sense. So imagine that, what you have to do. What does a good son do in a situation like that? What are we taught to do, right? You handle your mother, you handle your wife. You don't mix the two up, and you keep them each in their place, right? It's basically what it is. You don't have to go and tell your mother everything that your wife is saying, nor do you have to come and tell your wife everything that your mother is saying, right? This is the problem in today. Men are supposed to be, absorbers of information. You absorb that information. It doesn't have to go, and you don't have to go tell people, hey man, this is what my wife said. That's a womanly trait, right? To go around spreading what someone told to you, information.
Yeah.
We're vaults. We're supposed to be vaults. And so this is the reality. And so if you can keep that, so that's what we do. You a lot of times you will see men coming in and complaining about this whole battle between, and what the same advice that we give to them is kind of the same thing here, right?
Yeah.
They're 2 separate households. It's none of your business here, and it's none of your business is. As a man, you have to be strong enough to, handle this. And it's not a mental distress. It's an emotional distress, right? If you don't have the intelligent, and I'm not intelligent by any means, but it's learned behavior, right? Sometimes you have to go through the hard spots to learn it, just like everything else in life. So it's like, but if you can read about what the prophet talked about and stuff like that, it's a lot of emotional intelligence, right?
So what about little things like, how sometimes out of jealousy they be like, yo, how do I know you're not spending more on her? And
You cut that off, man. You cut that off. It's none of your business. You don't need to know what's going on over there, and you don't need to know what's going on over here. Simple as that.
But it's just gonna be like, you're being mean to me. I don't trust you.
Why don't you take my side?
I'm gonna ask you something. You have daughters?
No.
I do.
You have daughters. You have young daughters?
I have both old and young.
Yeah. So the young ones, they come in and argue with you about dumb stuff. Are you gonna, how far do you engage them? Right? How far do you engage them?
It depends on what it is.
That's what it is, right? So you have to know where to...
So you're saying treat them like children?
No, I'm just saying, you can't let it get that far, right?
What Shaq is saying is that they're emotional creatures,
Yeah, sure.
right?
Yeah,
so you have to that's where your masculinity comes in, and you act as a mediator, as a peacemaker.
Yeah.
There's
a beautiful story about the prophet, right? One time I think he ate. He was at Aisha radiallahu anha's house, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And his other wife brought him a dish, and she took it, she smashed it, and the prophet didn't say anything until later on. He said, "You better replace that dish." That says a lot, right? That speaks volumes on how you're supposed to treat people, right? And how you treat your wives, and you're soft where you have to be, and then you have a hard line where it has to be. It's like, fine, you did it. You're emotional.
So basically, it wasn't
you're
like
emotional. I get it, but now that you did it, let's be active.
Yeah, so he kind of basically understood that why she broke it, and like, all right, you got it out of your system.
It's fine.
Just make sure you replace it.
Yeah, because you still have to do the right thing, right? At the end of the day. So it's like, what? Backbiting, things like that. Don't discuss other people's stuff.
Yeah.
If you have these, if this is the disease that the woman has, it's not that you should fight it head on. You don't fight fire with fire, right? You gotta understand it, you gotta deal with it, and you gotta kind of try to maneuver away from that. And
right.
Say, listen, that's not how we behave, right?
So what about the things about like spending? Like, for example, like do you legit like let's say you bought one necklace, do you legit go buy another necklace?
No, not both of them have the same likes, right? One might like a necklace, one might like bracelets, right? One might like cars.
But you get equal value. Like, let's say you bought one thing for like $200. Do you buy something equal value for $200 the same way? Like,
no.
Do you go? How do you? Because you always hear about that. Like, oh, if you're spending on this one, you got to spend equal.
Not
on that
always.
one.
Right? It's like one person's birthday at one time of the year, and someone else's birthday at another time. So obviously, if it's your birthday, you're gonna get a gift. Doesn't mean I'm gonna go buy a gift for somebody else. Right? It's not gonna. So it's being fair is fair.
It's got to be generally equal.
Yeah, generally. And then household wise, it's different. So one household has kids, one household doesn't have kids, all that stuff, it matters too. So when you look at your income, it's not like, okay, if you make 100 grand, 50 grand goes here, 50 grand goes there. No, that doesn't make any sense because one of them has more, kids or more responsibilities on one side versus the other one doesn't, right? So this one might need a bigger car, which costs more. This one doesn't need a big car, so it's going to cost less, right? I mean, that's still equity, right? It's still equitable. They both have vehicles. They both have the same caliber vehicles. And, all that is equitable. It's just not going to be exactly, 50-50 numbers, right? It has to be 50-50 and
So what would you advise, like, let's say, because, there's a lot of dudes out there that talk about, oh, yeah, I want to get a second, third wife. They talk about it, right? A lot of people talk about it, right? But what would you say, like, what would be your advice to someone who's looking to go get a second wife? Like, what would you say, what would be the biggest struggle they're going to have?
As, the first one accepting. Right?
Like, divorcing them?
No, I mean, they could, yeah. That's the
Not just
possibility.
that, she could destroy your life with divorce and then fight for the kids, try to take all your money.
Yeah.
She can
It could
even
be a nasty road, yeah.
She can record you, use your video recordings that she secretly recorded in testimony.
You sound like pretty
all kinds of different stuff,
But, I would say, it's a difficult thing to bring up. With
she
any
can
woman,
create a separate bank account under your nose and start funneling money out of your main account. There's all kind of devious, bro.
This is like,
Let's not get into too personal here.
some Pablo Escobar stuff, bro.
No, these are just
Cocaine with your account name.
stuff that I've heard from other people,
But I mean, if you're ever, I would say if you ever have that thought, as a man, and young men, you asked me 20 years ago, right? No, wait, never. Who needs more than one, right? One's more than enough, right?
She can call you an emotional
same
abuser
brainwash stuff that you've been taught since you were a little kid. It's kind of like your environment and your, people around you, what they've taught you, the way they look at it. It makes it look like such a bad thing. And so young men don't think about it, right? They're like, no, man, I'm so in love, and this whole bitch man attitude and putting your wife on the ninth, treating them like they're some kind of princess that just came from heaven herself. I mean, they have all this attitude, and then as they grow older and as life gets through, as they become men, then they start realizing stuff, and then some of them are cheating, some of them are doing this, some of them are doing that. My advice would be, they should kind of have that idea from the get-go. So when they're looking for that first wife and second wife, maybe that should be discussed at that point. Like, hey, you know what? As I get older, there might be a chance that I'm going to want to have a second wife. I mean, it's going to be difficult to find a woman that's going to say yes to that. But I mean, I really don't know. And I know some people who have told me that their wives have willingly told them to have second wives, right? There's a couple of situations where one guy was looking at his wife, doesn't want to have any more kids, but she was open to the idea from him having a second wife and having kids. There was another situation where I know that a woman couldn't have children at all, and she knew how much her husband really wanted children, so she let him have a second wife, and they actually lived in one house. And that was a whole situation.
I love how you put it that she let him have one.
I mean, she said she agreed. But so Islamically, right? There's no need for permission from your wife.
From the first wife, right?
First wife.
Yeah, that happened actually in the latest Rami season. Did you watch Rami?
No.
This season? So there's some discussion of like a polygamous marriage and stuff. I remember like there was so one of the guys he wanted to have a second wife because his first wife didn't want to have kids. So he's a doctor, right?
Okay.
So one of his patients died. He's a man. He dies, but his wife wants to marry him because his patient, she trusts him and feels like some kind of attachment towards him, and feels like he can be a good father for his for her kid,
Okay.
So he goes on this journey trying to find out how he could do this, and he's like he has his whole like personal dilemma on how to approach his first wife about this. So his first wife like throws a fit about it, and there was one mention of something that's saying, oh yeah, the first wife needs to be consulted. I'm like, where is that in the Sharia? I'm just watching the show. I'm like, that's not actually right. And you could tell, like, in the modern Muslim scene, they make up all these like different rules that just to make
to appeal to like make the concept look more palatable, right?
Yeah. There's nothing.
But if the first wife says you're distressed by it, then you should not do it. It's haram for you to go do that.
I mean, it's actually the opposite. It's like if they can't take it, then you can get rid of them. It's really what if you read through it pretty carefully, it kind of more leans towards the idea that if you know, if a man wants a second wife and his first wife stops him, she's in the wrong. And if she gets a divorce and she leaves, and it's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
And women are not gonna like this. Men are like, I don't like dressing up Islam. It's sometimes it's a beautiful religion, and there's this harsh parts to it that you have to swallow, and there's some, it's not everything is a fun and games.
So I think
it's not wrong though.
I think what it comes down to is, can someone restrict the rights that God gave you? Yes or no, right? And if you're going to argue that, if you're going to say that I can restrict you from getting married to a second wife, well, can I restrict you from taking my finances? Like, I can't, right?
Yeah.
It would never work that way, right? It'd have to be a mutual agreement between both of us that you're willing to voluntarily give up that.
Right, yeah.
Right? So, if it's a right, it's a right? Yeah. There's nothing about that. So, I think that's what a lot of people don't want to hear, because it seems like it's unfair to the woman.
Yeah, the woman will just threaten, right now, I could bet you that any woman watching this will turn around to her husband and look, you try that, I'm going to leave you in a second, I'm going to take the kids with you. And that's it. The guy will be like, that's chop his nuts off and put him away, basically. Put him on ice. And the guy gets scared. Yeah. And I'm like, really, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Who's supporting you?
But I think along with saying that, though, I think there should be a little bit of responsibility, too, where like, hey, look, you have a wife, you built a relationship with her. Are you, like, let's say it's not a first year thing. Maybe you have 10, 15 years of marriage. Yeah. You have children. And so you want to consider your family too, right? Yeah. Because obviously part of being in a relationship with someone is knowing how much it'll affect them, and you want to compromise as well too, right? Yeah. So, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do, if you are considering your wife as well too, right? Because you do obviously at the end of the day have feelings and care, and
it's really not for everybody.
Yeah,
it's not. I know it sounds. People have asked me this question a lot of times, and I don't have a good answer for this. It's because it sounds bad, but it's just like it's not that I don't have a heart, or you don't have to have a heart. It's just you have to have a little bit stronger of a heart.
I believe it.
You're breaking people's hearts. People are going to be upset. It takes time to heal. You got to be there. You have to be a man about a lot of things. So people don't understand when I say being. A lot of people think when I say being a man means like stomping around and turning into the green Hulk. Right. Yeah, I don't say that. When I say men, being a man. Even last week I was thinking about this after I had mentioned this whole conflict and someone should be a man. A man is not a person who goes and inflicts pain, right? A man is a person who saves. Right, they save situations. Right, they come in and they make things better. A man who can absorb a lot of distress and stress and all the garbage, and then put out a more beautiful result for other people. Like that's what men are supposed to be. They're pillars, right? They're supposed to be these strong walls that can just take anything, absorb anything, be strong, hold anything up, and then we can also be strong enough to walk people through, broken people through, whatever, just to do. A lot of people just give up and walk away and stuff like that.
A lot of guys, they think having a second wife will solve the problems from the first wife. Sometimes some guys, they want to get a second wife because they don't want to destroy their first marriage, because it's not because they have all these feelings for their first wife. It's because they want to keep it together for the kids, right? Yeah. And they're willing to just put up with the whatever problems their first wife is bringing. There's a whole lot of things that, we could talk about, but upset people.
A second marriage is not a Band-Aid solution for sure. Yeah, that's definitely not it. If you're in a really bad marriage and you're thinking, I gotta go get a second one because this one sucks. No, you should get out of that second marriage. Because the first thing you should be thinking about. People get stumped. Okay, we have children. There's no Islamic law here. We won't get to see the kids. Yeah, I get it. It's difficult. It's really bad. But I'm not a sheikh, but I don't think being in a miserable marriage, it depends on your health, right? If you can take it, that's fine. You can take it. But I see a lot of guys in misery, and it's sad. They're disconnected. They're completely, gone silent. Their health is failing. They look like crap all the time. They're always in distress. That's a different story. This doesn't fix that, right? It shouldn't fix that. If you're not in a healthy marriage, you shouldn't go and get another one, because you can't handle one. How are you gonna handle two?
Yeah, and sometimes and I think there comes to a point where, unfortunately, speaking about that, like some people will endure that. Because it's so difficult to just have an equitable divorce. Yeah. That they will stick it out because the fear of having to be, having your bank account drained and then paying alimony and child support and then not being able to get remarried. Right. You think of all that and you're like, look, they rather would endure a painful marriage than just equitably end it. right? But they don't have the option, right?
So
Because-
that brings the next problem is that guys end up cheating. And I've talked to other shuyukh about this, is that many guys, when they're traveling, they take care of business with women that they never marry. You know, they commit sin.
Forget that, man. They're usually prostitutes and
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
massage parlors.
So what you're saying is that
Yeah.
this is happening because of it's a byproduct of not being able to have an equitable divorce.
Right.
I mean, if you have a
Well, one
crappy
of the
marriage
things,
and you're not getting, I don't know about you guys, but if I have a crappy marriage, if I have a really, like, if I'm always fighting with my wife and we're not on good terms all the time, I'm not sleeping with that woman. You know, I
Right,
can't.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
the emotional.
It's awkward, right?
It's just, I don't
You
feel
probably
like it.
could, but it'd be so awkward. Like, it's not enjoyable.
Sometimes it's a hateful
turned off.
sex, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's
you
still
know,
awkward, right?
You hate her, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
I know people do that. I got some guys that, I'm like, dude, why did you have more kids with this person? Like, the insane story that they tell me, and it's like, what was I supposed to do? I'm like, what do you mean what are you supposed to do? Like, I had to have some, so she was there, and I'm like, what? Like, you didn't have an emotional thing for this? Like, is why? Because these guys have
you know how
never
those,
had anybody else, right?
No, but you know how those rides work, right? Like
Yeah.
you fight and then you kind of come back together, and then
That's
you think it's
fine.
gonna work out,
Yeah.
and then you know what I mean? Like it's that roller coaster where you just get
That's dangerous too.
Next
Yeah,
thing
you
you
get
know,
pulled in this toxic circle, right?
Next
Where
thing
you're-
you know, you got four
right,
kids.
and then and then you feel even more trapped, right? Because you're like, shoot, like now I can't even leave this woman because I've got a responsibility. Now I got 4 young kids. What do I do now, right?
Yeah.
Do I abandon? It's not just about her now. It's like, do I abandon these kids? Do I harm them by doing this now, right? And on top, and it doesn't make it any easier that you've got this huge financial risk, right? And so it's problematic. And I agree with you. I think that people should realize, and I'm not encouraging divorce, but what I'm saying is that at some point, there's a breaking point. And if it's not working, you have to be man enough to say, look, this is not working. You and I both know it's not working.
Yeah.
Right? And oftentimes what happens is they go pursue the divorce after a big mistake happens.
Yep.
Right?
Too
And that
late.
becomes so bitter.
They wait.
right?
What happens is they wait till breaking point.
Right.
You cannot be that stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
You just can't. If you know that you're fighting more than if you're more miserable than happy.
Right.
Right. And if you're fighting more and less sex, all these are indicators, right? And it's not like a couple of months. We're talking about years.
Yeah, some people
are
5,
years.
6 years, 7 years.
And if you're always miserable, like, how is that good for you? You know, like, how's that working for you?
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you would rather just say, have an honest adult man conversation with this woman and say, listen, you
Well,
and I.
Indian women will never do that either. I mean, most of them will go
No,
dramatic.
but I think
ballistic,
it's about a man, though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like you said, right? She's going to be emotional, of course,
Yeah, you
because
can
she's
handle
not emotional about you. She's emotional about what everyone else is going to say about it
Yeah,
around her,
there's a lot
right?
of stuff
So you can approach it that way and be like, listen, we're both going to get talked about. This is both going to happen, but would you rather endure that than, let's say we get to a point where we get bitter and we get through a really nasty divorce
and then stuff starts.
and we have kids that have to go through that.
Yeah.
Or is it wise now? I mean, this is part of being a man, right? Where you have to kind of put that foot down and be like, hey, this is better for us.
Yeah.
You can't see it right now, but trust me, let it marinate in your head.
Yeah.
And you'll begin to realize, because sometimes it's all about just planting that seed, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually it grows and says, you know what? I think you're right. I think it's just not working.
Yeah.
Because usually...
if it's abrupt, it's usually nasty.
Right, and usually what happens is that usually when it gets to that point, right, like they begin to see, like, she'll come back and be like, you know what, I think you're right, this is not working. And usually when the first person mentions it, it breaks the ice. Like, it kind of introduces the idea.
There's an Islamic tariqah to this.
Yeah.
Right. There's a very
Like a Sufi therapy?
No. I mean, but there is a Sharia
Like the
tariqah.
the
You have to have
whole
a separation,
Yeah.
then try again, then separate again. I mean, there's a whole. If you want to do a proper divorce, there's a whole process that you're supposed to go through where you separate for a while, then you come back, and you separate for a while. Again, you try, and if it doesn't work, then you can separate one more time, and if that doesn't work, then separate one more time. I mean, they give a certain amount of chances,
Yeah.
and then after each one, you can give it to luck, and basically at the third one, you're
Right.
pretty much done.
Right.
It's a very good system to do it, and that really opens people's eyes because the woman can go away and say, man, yeah, really, this is much better.
Yeah, maybe like without it,
Yeah, maybe
and
like
maybe
that.
you realize too, like, because technically during that separation, a man could still go see what's available in the market, right? He can do that, and he's like, wait a minute, maybe the grass isn't greener here, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Or
And they don't have to go in the market. And
Yeah.
just being apart will tell you a lot, right?
sometimes it's like, yo, I can't live without this person,
Yeah.
or I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
right? Or oh
sometimes
my
it's
god,
like, wow, what a relief.
yeah, what a relief!
Yeah.
This rock's been off my chest. I haven't felt better in years,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, both sides got to be
Yeah,
miserable.
right.
Man. The dude's miserable at home and he's like down, not talking properly, not having. I mean, it should be a good environment in the house.
But this comes back to the idea of being a man and being mature and saying, listen, I gotta say this. I have to steer the ship.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have to know, like, part of being a good captain.
Technically, if men were steering the ship from the get-go, we would have a lot less problems to begin with. Right?
Well, they don't. That's the thing. Because of feminism, many guys have relegated their own
responsibility. They've already been demasculated before they're married.
Yeah, so they made concessions.
They go in like slaves, I mean, I see dudes, bro, get married and they're moving right away. Oh, we're moving into my wife's name. What do you mean? Do you know what the Islamic tariqah is? I mean, is there any? No, but she's got to be close to her parents. No, because she got to go to school. I mean, there's like a million freaking, and the most I'm going to tell you guys right now, the most demasculating thing a man could do to himself is live with or near his in-laws.
Oh my God, dude!
That is the most. If you live with your in-laws because whatever reason, you might as well just cut off your balls and your penis and throw it away. And if you're living close to them because of whatever school, that reason,
that's all nonsense.
It's still bull.
Yeah, I knew this one brother.
Wait. He said something powerful. Well, but why is that? Because some men will see that as appealing. Well, I don't have to pay for a mortgage, and I can save up money, and
you're somebody's bitch.
You're not a man. You're not building your own empire. You're not standing on your own 2 feet. You're not making your decisions. You're not building something. But what are you doing? Even if it's a 1-bedroom, even if it's a studio, fine.
Hey,
for it.
Let me ask you something. You ever met a man who ended up moving away and being independent and regretted it?
Moving what?
You ever met a man who was, let's say, he was living with the in-laws or his parents,
never,
and moved out, and then moved out, and
they're
regret
more content
being independent?
with less.
Yeah, and actually, they feel more empowered. Yeah. Actually, that drives them to say, "Hey, I can do this. Yeah, I can make it through."
Yeah,
right. But this goes back to weak men these days who are so scared of responsibility.
Yeah, true.
They would rather.
My wife has to go to work.
Power away from it. Right?
They would rather cut off their genitals and deal with their in-laws.
And take the easy way, right?
Take the easy way. They'll be on their PlayStation or Xbox, burning their life away.
It's just a sad thing. Like they're like, hey, we gotta move closer because the baby has to be taken care of by the mother-in-law. Like, what the f is your wife doing?
Yeah,
what is the mother? The mother-in-law, grandma is not the mom. The mom is the mom, right? Yeah. She should be available for the baby. She should be there. And, oh no, she needs to work. Why, bro? Why does she need to work?
Yeah. By the way, we're not speaking.
What's your problem with you?
Yeah, we're not speaking of like just postpartum or like immediately after birth. We're talking about like long term.
2 years, man. The baby needs breast milk for 2 years. Sunnah. Yeah. Simple.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the thing here's the other issue too.
Why do you need help taking care of it? Why can't you do it? Oh, she has to work. Why does she have to work?
And look, you know what? To be honest, man, like if that's the case, you know what? I feel like, man, if your wife needs help at home, you better find a way to make some extra money and hire a maid or somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Do your part.
Do your part.
And I feel, and this is one of my biggest things I've been really thinking about in my head right now is that I can't stress the importance of being financially independent. Yeah. Like you have to find a way. You don't have to be millionaires.
No.
You don't have to drive a Benz. You don't have to drive a BMW. You don't have to have a 4,000 square foot home. But you have to have your own goddamn bank account. Yeah. You have to be able to pay your bills and live within your means. But you have to be able to do that. And the problem is that many of the guys growing up now, they have no clue what it is to pay an electric bill, a gas bill, budget their bank account.
Their wives do it.
Yeah. They have no idea what it's like to actually know. I mean, like go and say, hey, look, honestly, most guys in their 30s today have no idea what it's like buying a home.
But what I cannot stand is, if you go to someone and say, hey man, you ask for donation or you have to make a decision to buy something. I can't make that decision without talking to my wife because I have no idea. What the hell how did that happen? It's great to confirm. I'm not saying, don't talk to your wives. I mean, people get this all wrong. Like, you should have this. You should have a beautiful relationship with your wife.
It shouldn't be black and white.
Yeah, you should know everything. They should know everything, and you should have a great communication with her. And of course, she should know if you're going to look at a house. She should already know that you're going to look at a house. And if you're going to buy that house on the spot, you buy the house on the spot.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Fundamentally, but the problem is, Shaq, is that a lot of the girls that are in the West, specifically Muslim women, are not that type. They're not that submissive type. They're demanding an equal voice. They want
the table.
It's not about being submissive.
No. I think it is. I think it directly has to do with
So what it is,
certain ideas of within women who feel like they are in a completely equal
they can't
platform.
spend $1.
So no.
kids spend $1.
What it is they want a seat at the table.
Yeah.
More than that.
Like, you know, what I'm saying is that no, meaning that they have to be like they want a shooter, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that, and the reality is that like this. Here's the thing. I agree with Shaq is saying, for example, buying a home, right? You have that discussion. Hey, babe, I'm thinking about buying a home. What do you think? Is it a good time? All right, cool. Yeah, you game? All right, boom. Now, if he goes and buys a house tomorrow, she shouldn't be shocked. How come you didn't tell me about a home?
No.
Right? No.
I'll be honest with you, man. I bought cars, I bought houses, I rent places. I don't go back and say twice, hey, I'm doing this.
I don't say nothing.
Unless I have a doubt. I'm like, hey, is this gonna work or not? That's the only time I call. I won't even go back and get him. I'll call FaceTime. What do you think?
I bought a $100,000 car and say nothing. I just came home with it.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
That's what it is, bro.
So, but the thing is, a lot of families these days, the woman has earned their right to illegal because they work.
Yeah.
So,
but
we're not spending their money. We shouldn't be spending their money. They should be having their own money, and the man is still spending his money and making those decisions.
Yeah.
This is what should happen on the man's side as well.
To be fair to the woman, though, there's a lot of financially irresponsible men.
I agree. That's what
and so the woman has to get worried because she's like, "What is the dummy doing?"
Bro, there's some morons, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I know some dudes out gambling 5-10 grand to win. I'm like,
dummies,
how are you doing that?
Yeah, dummies.
And their families in distress and bills are not
But
being
you can't
paid.
blame a woman like that.
So
right?
I
A woman like that is gonna be like, "Hey, I gotta
have,
check you because you can't take
if
care of
you have
yourself."
a bitch man, then that's
right.
And women are
Amen.
probably, you know, and I'll tell you another thing. Women don't want it. A lot of women, you know, I was going to talk about this last time too. There's a whole group of women in America, and they're not Muslims, that have this idea of, you know, a wife, what a woman should be like. You know, should be like a housewife, stay at home, work, and, you know, be more, you know, kind of the man is the head of the household. There are people who are still trying to hold on to those traditional family values.
Yeah.
And you know,
Az brought up a good point in the chat. Tom Brady went back to playing football despite his wife, that model wife, what's her name? Giselle, yeah. Wanting him.
Oh
to
yeah,
stay at
his
home.
wife divorced him for that, right? Or
Yeah,
about to divorce him.
I think they're going through.
And look, you know what? I think I kind of equate that to what you guys were talking about a guy who wants to have a second wife. He's got to decide what's more important for him. Is it like that desire that he can't, like he's gonna make zina, and he's got to do it and willing to forsake that? Like Tom Brady, he's like, look, I'm miserable without playing football.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play football. Either you're on the money train or you're not. It's just how it is. Choo choo, we're taking off, right? And it's just like either you buy, and I think that's part of being. This is going back to what we're saying, the fundamental, being independent and secure. You have to. A man makes decisions, and he doesn't. This is one thing I will say about this. I think one of the qualities of being masculine is being decisive.
Yeah, but again, we have to go back to this whole bitch man mentality, bro. You know, as much as we keep saying that, I know the women are going to come back, and I know the men today are not holding up their end of the bargain. You know, I've caught myself many times. Like for a long time, I was like not paying bills, and I started realizing, like, dude, you know, it's fine that you're paying them. I know you were paying them on time. I know you're great at it, but that gives me a little bit less control of my finances. I don't know why I don't have money. Like if I always look at my account, there's no money. I'm like, why is there no money? I'm going nuts. And she's like, why are you getting mad at me? I have to pay the bills. You told me to pay the bills. You know. So when I took control of that, there's a lot of things happen. Right now, there's less friction between me and her as well. Right? I don't have to worry about her not paying the bills.
Should you share a bank account with your?
Hell no.
Nope.
Okay.
I believe you should give her her own account, and you give her a stipend, and your money is your money. You put it in there because
I zell left and right.
That's another thing too. This whole idea that whatever you make is your wife's in your wife's account, and that's nonsense. That is not what Islam says. For anyone that believes that parrots that nonsense, no. What Islam says that whatever she needs for her maintenance, basic maintenance, like, you know, for her lifestyle, is what she's entitled to.
Yep.
Right? So if she goes beyond that, it's not her money.
Yeah, that whole your money is your money and my money is my money, or no, my money's my money and your
my money is my money, your money is my money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's mine is mine, what's his is mine. Right? That thing is nonsense.
But men have to also respect what's hers is hers. You know, if she's earning, she should be able to keep it. If she wants to, you know, give it to the household, she could. But bro, we should not be putting women in a position to do that. You know, and if it is, and I'm gonna tell you another reason, and this is very true too, man. Cut back on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's literally, that's what it is. You know, if you're a man,
don't drive that Benz.
Yeah, I have to have a Benz, but she's working and paying for it. What the F, man? How's that manly?
Yeah. I agree.
You're
100%.
still a little bitch. I don't care what car you're driving. I'd rather you drive a Civic and say I paid for my car, and I paid for. Oh no, she really wants to have an Audi. She really wants to have a BMW. So she went and got it. She's gonna pay for. Get the.
Nah, you tell her, listen, we're not going in debt so we can put friction in our marriage.
No.
Here's the thing, right? I also think that if a woman does have her own money, if she's gonna spend it, the only time I allow it is, I mean, for bills, is like if she wants to buy something for the kids, like something, you know, toys, or take them out.
Yeah.
Do that. Spend on your family like that. But she shouldn't be out there paying electric bills and phone bills and like your mortgage, or like I know someone who, like, you know, his wife pays the mortgage, right?
Yeah, half and half crap.
No, not half and half. Pays the whole damn thing, right? And the whole logic was that, well, you want a bigger house, and this is what I can afford, so
You pay the difference.
you know, but it ended up being you just pay the whole thing now,
my
right?
God, yeah.
But the thing is that I was kind of talking to. I remember talking to him years ago. I'm like, bro, you've given away your power.
Yeah.
Like, you've given away your seat at the table.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you know, I'm chilling, bro. I can buy this, I can buy that, whatever.
listen,
And
man.
now, like, in the process of a divorce, I mean, there was a conversation. I mean, it didn't happen, but there was a possibility of it happening, and that was the first thing. It was like it was brought up, like, what do you provide?
Yeah.
And to a man, dude, that's like a dagger to the heart, bro.
It
Like,
should
what
be, but
good are you,
they
bro?
don't care.
No, you know why? Because
Men don't care.
It's a legit point. No,
It is a
but
legit
they don't
point,
care
yeah.
when they're living the life. But when it comes down to saying what you're worth, and they call you on it,
Yeah.
that's like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah, but the men today are like, "Whoa, what do you mean? You know, they're just yeah, you know, they have no, they don't care. It doesn't hurt them.
It's crazy to be.
It doesn't hurt them. They're just gonna move on. They're idiots.
It's
I know
crazy
so many
to me.
men who live off their wives' money, bro. There's a special like derogatory term in Hindi for it. You know,
What's it called?
Bharko.
No.
I mean,
you
look,
say
one
it.
dude in the chat saying he got rid of his car. He's like, so much less stress. He's like, I don't need my car.
No.
And yeah, it's great. I mean, look, if you can, and I think this is such an important part of being a man, right? Knowing that, hey, you got to, just like you set boundaries with your wife, saying that, you know what, you don't have no male friends, I don't have no female friends. There should be boundaries on
It's so
finance.
sad that we have to say that, bro.
Yeah,
That's
but I
not-
mean, but hey, I mean, look, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But like the thing is, there should also be those boundaries on finances. Like, hey, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z if we're going to go in this kind of
Yeah.
debt.
But you know, I totally agree with you. Then you know, yeah, you're right. You're right. But people just, you know, these women want these high, you know, some, not all, but there's some women in the community that just want these high standards. Like, oh, you know, everyone else is driving these cars. I gotta have these cars. If you can't do it, I'm gonna work too, and then we could do it together. Otherwise,
We're a
can't do
team,
it.
baby.
Yeah.
We can just live
Yeah.
the best life together. No, we can't. If you
But
out of the
then
house,
again, you're chasing your desires.
Yeah.
Right. You've already gone off the you know, you've taken a step towards the deep end. Is basically what's doing. Just try to live within your means and maintain being a man.
Listen,
it's
bro.
worth more. You know.
anyone who has a working wife, the minute they come home late from work, you automatically, you can't help it. Anyone tells me they trust it, it's bullshit, bro. You are automatically putting on what happened. And that, it might even be that you don't trust her.
Yeah.
I don't trust another dude.
No, I don't.
Right?
Yeah.
And so all that stress
Yeah.
for a Benz or for like what? I mean,
Honestly,
like,
one of the reasons is, you know, nobody in my house works, you know, and the reason is because one of the main reasons is because of that. I don't like it that they have to go and sit in these offices and there's men around them. And you know, the thing is, when you're sitting with these guys for 8 hours a day, it's unnatural. You know, and you know, I see this all the time. You know, sometimes I've seen like, you know, my friends talk. You know, we're at Dawah and some dude and his wife. Hey, who's that? Oh, he works with my wife. What the fuck are you doing here? You know, like, why is he here? You know, it's like, oh, they're good friends.
so weird. We know this one guy,
Right,
right?
'Cause 8 hours a day. I mean, and you
Yeah.
know, at that point, we're all humans. I know. If I'm a woman starts getting friendly with me, I know it's a possibility. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like, look,
So-
even if you keep it like, you know, the fact that you are around a person like that
Yeah.
so long,
Yeah.
you can't blame somebody for thinking or possibly
liking
slipping,
that.
right?
Yeah.
It happens, right? That's why we're told to
Even
stay.
not just having a relationship.
Yeah,
is so
yeah,
long.
like that bothers me. Like,
Yeah.
oh, because you know what happens is, like for example, some people like, oh, you know what Tom did at work today? You know what? Why are you talking to a man with
and
me,
then
bro?
you're talking to him about your problems at home. That happens.
exactly. Oh, you're a man. Let me get your opinion about
Vulnerability
this. What
opens
should I
up.
buy my husband?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're going to the malls together, buying a gift for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Why don't you
It's-
try it on for me too while you're at it?
You know,
Let's see if you like it.
Yeah. Next thing he comes back, he gets smart. He's like, "Hey, I'm buying my wife a bikini. Can you try it on for me?" You know what I mean? Like, and then it just goes to the next thing. But
Let me warm you up before you get home to your husband.
but
You
that's the
are
whole
stupid.
thing, right?
You are
Yeah,
stupid.
and like, it's just such a and you know what? It's crazy because like, they have this culture of being like an office husband, office wife.
yeah,
it's so strange to me. Like I remember one time when I was working in the same building that we were in, right? When I got married, the guy was like, "Hey, oh, cool. Let me see a picture of your wife." And I look at him like, "Bro, you never ask a Muslim man that." I told him, like, we don't show, like, not even, you don't keep it in your wallet? I'm like, no. Not even your phone? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to take
I
it.
don't do, I personally don't do it because, you know, what if you lose your phone? What if you have, you know, it's just crazy. I don't keep it, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, this is a reason why we don't do this. And it's just wild to me. I'll give you a small example of how crazy this can be.
These guys are showing pictures of their wives in bikinis and stuff.
Bro, they're putting marriage pictures up on Facebook, like our special day, and your wife is dialed up for you on your special day, and you put that on the whole world for to see on your wedding day. What's wrong with you, idiot?
Muslims?
They're Muslims.
Yeah, dude, you know, I'll never forget this one. You know, the walking the bride through all the men and women into the hall. What kind of a jackass father do you have to be to get your
It's
daughter
normal now,
put up into $1,000 suit, and then you put all the crazy music on? You got and you're bringing all this attention to her, and all those pervert uncles in there looking at her. You know, like
99% of marriages are like that now.
I'm my family.
And if you talk about it, you're the savage.
You're the extremist. You're the extremist.
You probably are the one who's checking her out. That's probably.
No, and
if it ain't my relative.
Yeah, exactly. What's the problem? No, but the thing is, like even this whole, like, some couples will dance together in front of people. But this whole idea, like, this woman, and by the way, when I'm speaking, I'm not talking about liberals. I mean, these are like muhajjabat, and people are generally like their beards, and they're putting the, you know what I'm talking about? They put
no, Palestinians do this all the time.
No, not even. I'm saying even Desis, bro. They put their Facebook profile picture of, like, their wedding day, like the woman and man sitting there all looking at each other, you know, like the whole Rani thing, whatever, right? They did a stupid thing, like a cute thing, but I'm like, bro, your wife, mashallah, muhajjaba, she got dialed up for you for your wedding night, and now you're letting everybody, people who don't even know you, are looking at this profile picture of your dialed up wife. Like, this is dayasa.
And then they love it when they're non-Muslim friend. Oh, your wife is beautiful. I think,
oh yeah, thank you. You're so ethnic, so beautiful. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Why are you looking at her?
Bitch, it ain't for you. You know what I mean? Like, but it's your fault for doing. That's my point. Like, if you put that stuff up, what do you expect? You think guys are like, oh man, they're not going to comment on that? Especially a guy who doesn't know your religion, or maybe who's liberal. He's not going to say something. I'll give you an example. It got to a point so far where we have a mutual friend where he has a friend, a woman that was getting married, Muslim, and he's Muslim too, and he went to the wedding alone because she invited him as a friend, and when he got there, like, oh, you're here for the groom, right? Because he's alone, right? He's like, no, I'm here on the bride's side, and no one knew who the guy was, but he was there because he was a friend of the bride.
Oh my god!
You know how awkward that is? Like, it's so weird to do that, right? Like, and we tease him about it. Like, how did you feel normal doing that? Like, I would feel totally.
How that guy who's married that woman still married that woman?
Yeah, it's just so weird. Like, there was another video of, like, this guy posted. I think it was Mehdi or someone else posted it, but, like, there was, like, this guy who got married, and he put, like, this he invited this singer, like this woman's favorite Bengali singer, right? And the guy comes out to sing a song for them, and she goes gaga. She's like staring at him. Oh my god! She didn't even look at her husband on her wedding day, bro. Horrible. And people were like, "What is this?" Now he's holding her, giving her a hug. Like, what is going on, bro? All right. Hey, I think someone joined in, right?
Yeah, someone just joined in. Familiar space. Let's just see how we can.
Okay.
Hey, assalamu alaikum, guys.
We got Rob from Islam from Europeans on. Robert DeForest, of course, for longtime listeners know, he is a founder of Islam for Europeans, an organization that aims to create spaces for white Muslims, people of Caucasian background. Thank you, Robert, for joining us. How are you, man?
Alhamdulillah, how are you guys doing? Actually, I'd love to introduce myself to your new co-host. I didn't get your name, brother. What was it?
Shaquille.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, Shaquille. Welcome to Mamluks. You guys are doing a great job. Just to clarify though, Sim, like, spaces, I guess, isn't the real correct. I don't really like that term because we're more of a sub-community, and that, once we get a brick and mortar, building established, where we can give dawah to our families, all Muslims would be invited. So this is not.
It could even be a virtual space, though, right, Robert?
Yeah. Right now we're virtual.
So that's a space, a virtual space.
Yeah,
we like
exactly.
We like to use.
Eventually, once we get like 10, 20, 30 members in each city and locale, we'll start having dinners and get-togethers and iftars. And
I wonder if Baby Noah's going to join his space.
Hey, can Baby Noah join? He's half white.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He looks
anyone can
white,
do it.
but in certain lighting, he has like a
tape.
little California tan, you know. So you can tell like he's a little ethnic.
He's
got
sun-kissed.
He's got a little bit of sun kiss on him.
Yeah,
So-
I mean that's why it's we made it Islam for Europeans because I mean it has nothing to do with skin color. I mean like Spain, Portugal, southern Italy. There's a
Right.
big history of mutual animosity, as you know, between the Muslim world and the West.
Right.
So the Spaniards and Portuguese and Southern Italians,
People
are
from
darker than
Dorne.
many Arabs. So it's more about, I guess, the culture and the history that's important to have that
You know what I'm talking about?
collectivization.
Oh,
Right.
naughty. Okay.
But you guys are free to ask me any questions, as controversial as you like. I know you like to give me some firecrackers, so it's up to you.
No, man. Space is yours. You got a big announcement you want to make. So
Yeah, so we just posted our declaration on our website. It's basically 30 points that kind of outlines, what we're about and what we're advocating for, and basically our recommendations to, Muslim communities living in the West, which is basically a communitarian approach for the people who convert to Islam, not just for Europeans, but any group of people that wish to convert to Islam. For example, like the First Nations here in Canada, we would advocate for the exact same thing, which is basically helping them to create a sub-community where they keep the traditional culture, anything that is good within their traditional culture, and coming back to that. So the traditional dress, the cuisine, the architecture, the sports and games, ways of doing, and so on and so forth, and just purifying themselves from the haram things in that culture. And if you help them collectivize in that way, you get us what us converts really need, which is basically helping to ameliorate the situation with our friends and family. And that's how you get these converts not just to convert to Islam, but stay there and create this kind of field where it makes it easier for people to convert to Islam in the first place. And if you do this approach, we're not separating anybody. We're still going to give salam to everyone on the street. We're all going to give all Muslims their Islamic rights. But this would reduce Islamophobia basically overnight in the Anglosphere. And I can't think of any negatives really. I mean, it would even increase the European birth rate because, if we were just mostly be marrying each other.
Yeah, white people ain't having babies, so you got to fix that problem, Robert. Yeah. No, but I mean, the way I look at it like this, dude, just like when you go to there's a Hyderabadi masjid, there's a Bengali masjid, there's a Somali masjid, and naturally they also tend to be community spaces for them, right? So they're going to have a community space for, and we've talked about this, Sheikh, you've got, revert wives, right? And so they basically don't have spaces that are catered for them, right? Like masajids have to be reminded, hey, do you have something for reverts? Do you have something for this? So this will be like, kind of revert centric within their own subculture, right? For example, Islam and Spanish. Yeah. They have their own little center where, they can cater to the needs of their people, language-wise, culture-wise, whatever it may be. And I think people hear the name and they're like, oh my God, this is just it's like a white nationalist Muslim group. No, it's not that. It's just simply saying that Europeans have a culture. And that's perfectly fine to have that culture.
Yeah.
And they need a space and a place to, to meet like-minded individuals.
To express that, yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Indian culture is very, very engrossed into the Muslim culture, right? The Arab culture is very engrossed into the Muslim culture, right? So they're definitely an element of culture in our religion for sure.
Yep, absolutely, and that's the great thing about it. And now again, I think there's the main backlash has been basically from two voices, and you have to understand where they're coming from. And I guess a lot of Muslims, for the longest time, took what I call the Medina model of Muslims going to the West, is that we have no culture, we just have Islam as the one culture, therefore we should downplay any type of regional culture whatsoever and just be one big happy family. But you have umbrella masjids, but that's not going to solve all the problems of each community. Right. And I think that's why naturally people just tend to stick to their own people for the most part, but they still give all the rights to all Muslim people. We're all still part of the greater ummah. Like there's a mosque on the Danforth in Toronto called Medina Mosque, and it is 95% South Asian in the most multicultural neighborhood in North America. And like when you go in there, you feel like you're in Karachi. I mean, all the iftars are super spicy. Everyone's wearing a shalwar kameez.
I mean, I've been out there, man.
No one says, okay, you're not you're not South Asian, you can't come here.
But
You know,
you see,
so
yeah.
I think part of the reason why there's, you know, the knee-jerk reaction is to be against this, for people who use the monocultural approach, is that for the longest time, a lot of these sheikhs and imams were oppressed by nationalist governments, you know, like Assad or whoever, right? So, I mean, like, they have this kind of knee-jerk reaction. They see that the fall of the Ottoman Empire, they blame it on nationalism, or, you know, the fall of the Muslim community. So, but the problem is they've taken it to an extreme where it's like, let's just get rid of any differences whatsoever. And when it comes to converts, especially European descendant converts, it doesn't address their main issues. So when they have these convert programs, they just throw money at the problem, not understanding what it is. So it's not about ameliorating the situation with their family. It's all about, you know, let's turn this guy into the next sheikh, which only 1% of converts are ever going to end up doing.
Yeah.
So it's taking a step back and looking at all these problems. You know, it took a long time for us to do. Like, for several years, I would have rejected this whole idea. But after seeing, you know, all these sub-communities and how they operate, I can tell that we definitely need a different approach, and that's why Islam for Europeans is advocating for such.
So I got a question though. So how likely is?
Yeah, it was a lot to swallow. Is everyone still there?
Yeah,
we're here.
Guys?
Can you hear me? Oh,
Hello?
hold on.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, something
Oh, they're
happened.
breaking up on me.
Something
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we heard everything you
Was
said.
I just talking to myself the whole time?
No, we heard everything.
No,
we heard
in the
everything.
show.
1 second. We're
Having issues.
fixing
Oh.
this.
Can he?
I think I accidentally clicked mute from our end.
All right, cool.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah,
we heard you, though.
Yeah.
I went in
So-
this long spiel. Go
no,
ahead.
no,
No, we heard everything.
Yeah, I got a question for you though. So, how likely is the European Muslim community likely to, in the future, accept polygamy? I mean, you got the Mormons.
I know you've been big on that. More
Not big. I'm just curious because I have members here that are kind of interested. So, just wondering.
I mean, I don't know. Again, these things are going to happen slowly. I mean, like, for converts, you got to understand.
Don't you dare take our white women.
Well, I mean,
I don't blame you, bro.
Well, I mean, I guess, but no. All joking aside, and I understand where you're coming from, but you know, like, it's going to take some time, just because the reaction of our families, you know, like, it's varied. There's some people who have no problem with Muslims at all. There's people who absolutely hate Islam, and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
But I think in general, I think there's a big reluctance, you know, to embrace polygamy right off the bat. I think as time goes on,
Yeah.
I think you may see that later. But again, with as you know, living in an industrialized nation where everything is just super expensive.
Right.
You know, just having one wife is like a major, you know, like responsibility. So, yeah, I mean, all joking aside, maybe after a generation, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I mean,
No. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if it's gonna be a major even issue for integration. I mean, I think first of all, to be all honest and fair, I think the biggest focus is having Muslims end up, you know, being able to have a community that they can bond with and that they can actually have, you know, some representation in. But I mean, I do think that it's good because I was talking to a brother today who is a Latino convert. I did another interview for Synod Discourse, and he is a Latino convert, and he left Catholicism. And I was mentioning to him that on TikTok, I intentionally try to subscribe to white brothers, not racist, but I want to support them because I think it's super important for the American population, or even European, whatever it is, to see more people like them living this Islamic lifestyle and not otherizing Islam and saying, oh, it's the religion of the black man or the brown man, right? It's actually people, like, for example, we brought on the Muslim cowboy, right? Perfect example. He's got a cowboy hat on. He's calling the adhan in a full cowboy outfit, right? And that's powerful to see, that you don't have to give up your culture to be a Muslim.
Right.
Because what bonds us is not your culture. What bonds us is
deen.
the belief, our religion, right? And those beliefs don't impair your culture, generally speaking, right? It doesn't take away from most of your clothing, your food, your language, you know, even your interactions.
Right.
And so I think it's important in this way that it highlights that there's a community of Muslims that are of European background that are growing. Aside from, and the reason I mention this is that because it's, of course, there's European Muslim, indigenous, like Bosnians, Albanians and so forth and so on, and some of the Turks. However, when people think European, they think Spain, England, France, Germany, America, right? They think that. And it's important for people to see that there is a growing community of those kinds of individuals, because what if somebody is interested in Islam and thinking about, well, how do I even go about this? It's easier for them to talk to somebody like Robert, like a white Canadian, a French Canadian, to talk to Robert than talk to three brown dudes about what the culture is and what you have to do to be a Muslim, right? It's a lot easier because he can share his struggle. He can talk about things that are common, right? And even in the Quran, it says, let's come to a common term between us. That's not just about Allah. It's about even how do you come into the fold of Islam? Like, how do you get there? And without people, without a group, an organization, it's harder. Like, that's why you have like Islam in Spanish. You have like organizations in Africa. You have organizations in the Philippines, in China, right? Because you need to be reaching out to them.
We have Iman Central in Chicago, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not technically like a black
But
organization.
it's an urban center.
It's like an urban center.
Right. So people who are in that urban culture, they have exposure to Islam, and they're not going to, because let's be honest, right? For example, I'll use that as an example, right?
Yeah.
Most people in the urban society, they have a certain way of dressing. Maybe they have tattoos. Maybe, and if you come into like Dar es Salaam with your face tattoo, get out. Like, they're probably gonna be like, yo, people are gonna give you look. At the very least, they're gonna give you looks. Whereas this place, they know immediately that they're not gonna give this person looks because this is normal for them to see, right? Like, it's something that that's not a bad person. It's just someone who's interested, like everybody else.
Yeah.
So those things are important because how you greet somebody, like the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was taught that lesson by Allah, right? In Surah Abasa, right? That you don't just give preference to the guy that has money. The guy that's interested, you have to relate to them.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why. I'm sorry, Rob, you were going to say something.
No, I agree with everything you said, Mort. We fully support Islam in Spanish. We fully support the Black American Muslim Conference. I've been on the features a couple of times. So, it's, again,
Let me push back a little bit.
Go ahead.
A lot of people say that organizations such as Islam in Spanish or yours, it creates bubbles, and Islam came to shatter these bonds of nationalism and ethnic identity, and these sub communities destroy that or don't work to get each other. People of different ethnicities and cultures to get to know each other.
Well, I think they're conflating two different ideas here. The biggest problem I think for us converts, like for example, when I converted to Islam, I had the sphere, the Muslim sphere, which is basically the mosque, the community in Windsor that I would go to, once or twice a week, right? And then when I go home to my hometown in Amherstburg, I was basically the only Muslim there, and Muslims just they felt extremely reluctant even entering those spheres. They didn't want to see my family. They didn't want to see my friends, right? And vice versa too. Like, my dad had no problem with me converting to Islam, but he just didn't want to go to a mosque. It just wasn't his turf, right? So you're living in two different worlds. And like I said, the most important thing we need is to improve the relationship with our family. Without that, only the very people with a strong foundation to begin with are ever going to convert to Islam publicly and join a Muslim community. So in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, he knew everybody. Like, he knew the entire city. And when someone converted to Islam, he paired him up with one of the Ansar, and because he knew that he could help resolve those issues. But when you have a Muslim community who's very sincere and wants the best for you, but at the same time simply doesn't want to enter your sphere and family doesn't want to enter theirs, and never the things shall meet for years, then you need to take a different approach. You need to have other people in your corner. So if you take this collective approach, we're not separating ourselves, like I said, and it's a great question, Sim. I'm glad you asked it. We're going to give all the Muslims their Islamic rights. We're going to give salam to them on the street. We're going to, say our Allah when they sneeze. We could even, you'll even see us at Jummah prayer and Eid prayer. We'll be wearing European clothes, but we're going to be there. So our desire is never to separate ourselves from the greater Muslim.
Rob, to stop you for a second and to answer Sim too. I would say that like that kind of the people who think like that or say things like that, it's kind of like almost like a pseudo racism. Right. You're trying to remove people from where they came from. That's not what Islam was about, right?
Yeah.
It's very wrong. I'm a person who doesn't agree with too many masajids and too many.
Me too.
I don't think there should be 100. Indian Pakistan. I get it. If we need a cultural centers, culturally based masjids for certain purpose, and I totally agree with, especially when it comes to converts and of different cultures, they do need a space where they can come in and kind of share their background and still partake in the deen. But for anyone to think that that's creating a bubble, that's not true. It's a problem is that we haven't accepted those people's cultures, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's creating. That's what's making this necessary for us to have them to have their own space. If we in our Arab and Pakistani and Indian masajids had opened that door and didn't have if you guys don't know, but Indians and Arabs are some of the most racist people. We're all very racist. The Arabs are very racist, very, very racist, right? Indian Pakistanis are extremely racist, right? And it's not that at that level, it's not even looked at as like a bad thing, right? I mean, every nation kind of stands in its own self and says, "Oh my God, those people are different. We can't mix with them. They're going to destroy us." That's not what Islam is about. We should be learning from each other because our base core is what's the most important thing, right? Besides that, everyone else could share culture. Right, you don't have to lose it. You can share it, and you can even enjoy each other. But we don't do that, right? So, right, Rob. So, I mean, this is what's forcing people to do this. Otherwise, if we had really truly integrated at the masjid level, at the top masjid level, we wouldn't have this problem.
So, I wanted to talk about that too because a lot of times people think about this. When Islam spread, it came from Arabia, right?
Yeah.
Arab culture was the dominant culture in Islam. So much so that some people said that anyone who becomes a Muslim is an Arab. Like, that's just pretty much how it became because they adopted the language. But that's how dominant it was. But look what the change did. In Persia, when they conquered Persia, this is when they actually designed, they perfected the writing style. They took from the culture. Things like even the categories of sarf, nahu, all that was created by Persian scholars who influenced language. Another example, when the Ottomans came, there are certain things that we do, like even like those fez hats. And even things like people do today, like putting their hand over their heart. Little things that you picked up from other cultures, right? Like so what I'm saying is that traditionally speaking, if you go back, there's tons of little things that were culturally adopted by the Muslims that are not of Arab origin. Right. For example, even the crescent and the star sign. That has nothing to do with Arabia. Nothing at all. It was not something wrong with them.
It was interesting is like, when the Crusaders had taken over, they had destroyed all forms of knowledge. But when the Arabs took over, they took that knowledge and then they developed it, and they were the ones who brought up algebra and astronomy. It wasn't that they didn't just come up out of thin air. They took ancient studies and they just they progressed them along.
And so my point being is that this adoption of culture that's not contradictory to Islamic values is completely normal in our history.
It must be done.
Yeah, it's gotten to a point where even there's certain practices we do now that have no basis in the Arab culture, but they haven't kind of incorporated within Islam. Yeah. Right? Like, for example, the idea of having a green dome. Where did that come from? That's not an Arab thing to do.
As long as it doesn't go against the Sharia.
Right?
I mean, to Turks and the other people.
As long as it falls within the Sharia and doesn't it's not against the Sharia, then there's no reason for us to reason. But I mean, it's sad that it is, and I understand the struggles.
Yeah, and someone wrote a comment saying, "Wouldn't you say that the reason why Black, white, Latino, Muslim communities have their own quote unquote safe spaces is a response to Daisy's making and incorporating Islam with subcontinent culture?" And I think that is true for the large part for most masajids. Actually, to that credit, majority of masjids or masajids in America before the large emigration of Daisy's here were Black run masjids, massages, right? And unfortunately, many of these communities, they ended up taking over and effectively kind of alienating Black people from their own community, from their own masjid they started, right? And which is horrible, right? It's a bad thing. So what I'm saying is that I'm not saying every single Daisy is racist, but there's no doubt that when you walk into a masjid in Chicago, most places, or I'm sure other places in Toronto, you're gonna see that is a dominant Daisy culture, like a dominant, and I will say this though, there's also one reason for this too, and I have to be honest here. We can mention the negative qualities, but the Asian Muslim community in general, Bengalis, Indians, and Pakistanis, they put the work in to build these
Exactly.
masajids.
Thank you for saying that.
They put literally many of these masajids that are around today,
Yeah.
full-time schools,
Yeah.
community centers, they collectively built this and they support it till this day.
Yeah.
And so naturally this is going to happen, but it doesn't make it okay. But I'm saying is that's why they're predominantly that way.
Yeah.
Right. And so as what we hope to see is that other communities also, as they grow, that they also become dominant like this too. Right. Like not just one culture doing this. Right. So I think that'll help.
That always also segregates. Oh, the Indians are doing it. We're gonna go and do a separate effort. You know, it's never been a thing where another culture came and said, "Hey, let's just do this." You know, we'll add on to yours and let's grow this project because there's always that friction again, right? And go ahead,
guys, we got to wrap things up. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Rob, for your.
Nice meeting you, Rob.
Yeah, it looks like he left, but thanks again, everyone.
He might drop us, bro.
No, I think he had to. Help us out on patreon.com/the Mamluks. This episode was sponsored by Mecca Books. Make sure you visit Mecca Books for all your literary needs, and we'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.